Hi, this is Nina from Saving Wild Tigers. You know me. I have had the pleasure and honor of being in India in Nagarhole National Park with some of the people that we've been supporting over the years. Dr. Kriti Karant's core team. You met Chandan in the other video. And this is...
I'm Dr. Shreedhar Vijayakrishnan and I'm a scientist with the Center for Wildlife Studies, and I currently head the elephant program at CWS.
And Kriti says he's an elephant genius, which I believe is true. So I wanted to ask you, Shreedhar, everywhere I look on CWS, it's about rewilding and rewilding India specifically. So can you explain a little bit about your work in this effort of rewilding? And what does that mean, actually?
So, my current work actually tries to look at elephants outside protected areas. And our primary focus has been in territorial forest divisions that in the past have primarily been focused upon only at timber extraction sites, but are fairly rich in biodiversity. And particularly from the point of view of elephants, these are excellent habitats. And the idea what we are trying to, or rather the point that we're trying to understand here is that how elephants thrive in several of these landscapes, and the whole ideology that people tend to have that wildlife stay within protected areas. That's not true. They are there in most forested spaces, and even otherwise, even in human-dominated landscapes as well. So even in the landscapes where we work, we do have a fairly good proportion of elephants outside these forested areas as well in human-dominated landscapes. Very often, unfortunately, coming into negative interactions with people in terms of conflict.
Right, because the people who live around these areas are mostly depending on the land.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
For their
and
sustenance.
there's a lot of cultivation there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of subsistence farming in those areas.
Yeah.
And this is also something that we cannot completely avoid either. Like, people are dependent on the land for their livelihoods. So rewild India, in some sense, is about striking the balance where you ensure that the wildlife thrives, wildlife populations improve. At the same time, livelihood and sustenance for people are also not compromised.
Right.
So, in some sense, it's a managed way towards achieving the larger goal of coexistence. And when I say coexistence, it's not like you go to a landscape and say there is coexistence possible here, or the mere sharing of space and time by wildlife and people refer to as coexistence. That doesn't apply well, because then it comes with a cost. Coexistence is where there is very minimal cost on both sides, and that would mean there has to be some efforts put in to make sure that there are minimal losses to people, and there are almost negligible losses for wildlife.
Right.
So when there are, for instance, if there is repeated crop loss, or if there is repeated property loss, or even worse, if there are episodic deaths due to wildlife, tends to be a lot of negative attitude towards the species. There's a lot of intolerance, and that is what usually leads to killing species in defense or retaliation.
So in your experience over the years with CWS, have you seen, by creating a relationship with the people who live around the park and helping them, have you seen a general movement in the direction of the people's attitudes towards wildlife?
I do. So it's not been too long since I've been working with CWS, but one thing that I do see different from other landscapes where I work, as opposed to where, for instance, the wild survey program has been going on, is that the farmers do have a sense of tolerance now. They have some sort of surety that, okay, we're gonna get, whether or not it matches our laws, there is going to be some ex gratia that we're gonna receive.
So they feel supported
They feel supported. Most importantly, they now have this assurance that there is someone they can reach out to. Because I believe that in most of these scenarios where people are at loss, even more than monetary support, people need psychological support. People need somebody to reach out to. People need somebody who they can vent out to their frustrations, their anger, their sadness, everything. And I think that way, the entire wild survey team, for instance, are always at
available.
Are always available for people to reach out to, be it to complain about their issues, or be it to help people avail these official procedures to get the compensation and so on. So I think that has made a huge difference, and I think this can make a huge difference in most other landscapes too. Because very often in many landscapes where I worked also, this is the exact same thing that I've heard from people, that if an animal dies, there are 100 people here. If a person dies, how many people come here? How many people talk to me? So it's about that connect. And in many areas, the department themselves actually take that extra effort in going and talking to people. So I think slowly that change is happening, and that can go a long way in achieving this larger goal of rewilding India.
So, going more in the direction of rewilding India, now we've been in this park, and it's a protected area. And like you said to me yesterday, since the 70s, it's now been used specifically as a national park, whereas it used to be there was timber extraction, elephants were rounded up to carry the timber out and all kinds of things. So when you, because you study elephants and habitats all the time, so do you have a feeling for the little time that we spent in the park and the little area that we covered, that looking at the elephants that we saw a dozen plus elephants, let's say, that they're a healthy population, and if they are healthy, does that imply that there's a healthy biodiverse habitat? Does that imply?
I think so, because thanks to all the excellent conservation efforts over the last 4 to 5 decades, Nagarole now is one of the parks with one of the highest elephant densities across Asia. And
basically the world then, right? And not including African elephants.
Yeah, not including African elephants. So, in fact, CWS has conducted research to understand population dynamics in this landscape for over 30 years, including elephants and other herbivores. And one thing you can surely see, I mean, of course, in the limited time that we saw, we can clearly see how priorities have clearly changed from what they used to be pre-1970s, where clear priority was what then used to be called production forestry aspect. So from production forestry, there's been a switch to protection forestry, where it is completely focused on protecting landscapes, if possible rejuvenating them, if possible improving habitat quality, and so on. So there's a lot of emphasis laid out on that, and I'm sure there are a lot more things that we can do more scientifically. But I think in many ways, I think we are headed in the right direction, and this is one of the finest landscapes, or one of the finest habitats available for the Indians, I can tell you, because the Nilgiris, the entire Nilgiris Eastern Ghats landscape spread across 12,600 square kilometers, now supports close to 6,000 elephants.
And they're connected, and so they can move.
Yeah, so with some narrow paths in between, they're actually well connected across this 12,600.
And they need
and
that.
That's the only such largest contiguous area across Asia.
Right.
So I think these are the kind of habitats that we require for such large-ranging, long-lived species like elephants.
Long-lived, yes. So you were telling us yesterday that you're a researcher. A lot of your work that you do is on foot when you're out in the field. Can you share with us a story of sighting an elephant or meeting up with an elephant, maybe not in the most friendly way?
So I think it's always exciting to sort of try and recall field memories, but more than the frightening ones, I think the ones that stick with you are the ones that really like carry you away. And there was this one instance where I was doing transits in the Aramala Hills, and I was dropped at one point to start my transit, and the person who was driving the vehicle actually went ahead to turn the vehicle and go back to the
Just say what a
pickup
transect is quickly.
Oh, so a transect is basically usually a linear line through which we walk, looking for direct sightings of animals or animal signs.
Right.
It's a sampling protocol to estimate abundance of
Because
species.
when we were in the park, for example, today we drove around for a while, and you don't necessarily see everything with your eyes, so it's not possible to count that way. So this is how they sample.
So and a total count is almost impossible. So you usually sample proportion.
Sure.
So So I was dropped at the start point, and the vehicle then just went off to another point from where I was supposed to be picked up. And when I actually finally finished the transit line and walked back to the end point, the person who was driving, actually one of my field assistants, he actually told me there was a fantastic, huge, a majestic tusker, and until then I'd spent about 4 years studying elephants in the Annamalais, and the largest we had seen was probably like a 9-footer.
Okay.
But he claimed that this one was extremely.
So 9 is the height.
9 is the height, correct. And the shoulder height.
High shoulder height. Okay.
And so the only thing I remember asking him was the animal in must. So he said the animal was walking along the trail, not taking any side routes, despite seeing a vehicle. The only thing I remember asking him was whether the animal was in must, and he told me that there was temporal discharge, that the animal was in must. So it's a
But you
physiological.
see the signs are on the side. Yeah.
The must is a physiological state in bull elephants. So then I told him, then it's highly likely he's going to stick to trails. That's a typical behavior usually. They tend to stick to trails and they're in must, picking scent of herds or other males and then moving along the trail. So I told him, just stick to the trail. We just drive around. We're going to find him. And it didn't take us too long. Probably 10 to 15 minutes, we actually found him. And this was, he saw the animal, I guess, about 3.5 hours before that.
Yeah.
But in matter of 15 minutes, we actually found him along the trail, headed towards our vehicle, since we had gone in the other direction. And there was this, if I may sort of anthropomorphize it, but it was quite a magical sight. There were these huge teak and terminalia trees on both sides, and then there were these, narrow streaks of sunlight coming through it, and every time the animal crossed one tree, you would see that streak falling on his face. And he had really long tusks also, and I don't think I had ever seen an animal with such large tusks in the Annamalais before that. And in fact, later on when I shared that image with some of the officers, they also actually added to that. Some of them been working there for like decades, and they themselves hadn't seen. They knew that there was an animal of this stature there. They'd got him on camera traps and all, but seldom did they see him in
presence.
So some of the ground watchers saw him, but it is also rare to see such tuskers. As much as you want to see them, it's not that easy.
Yes.
So it was just a feeling that I just couldn't describe any further. So as soon as I got back to the base, I sat down. Though I got some photographs, I really wanted to. So I used to have this habit of sketching elephants when I'm on field doing observations. So I sat down, I did that on a postcard, and I posted it to my aunt. So that sighting has stayed with me forever.
It's meaningful.
Yeah.
Did you take a picture of your postcard?
Yes, I did.
Will you send it to me?
I'll send it to you, yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing all this with us, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. It's the reason why we can sleep at night, because of you guys.
Thank you so much for supporting us as well.
Thank you. Thanks all.
Thank you.